Hello and welcome to Math 8, Unit 1B, Lesson 3. Today's objective is scholars will find the measures of angles using angle relationships within parallel lines and transversals. Okay, so first, what are parallel lines and transversals? So lines S and T are parallel. So those are these lines, line S and line T. So parallel lines are always the same distance apart and will never meet. They actually have the same slope if you put them on a graph. Line M is a transversal. So this is line M, this is our transversal. A transversal is simply a line that crosses a set of parallel lines. Okay, so that's important to know so you understand which lines are which. You'll notice that lines S and T are always the same distance apart no matter where they're at. So you'll see you have the same distance here as you do here, as you do here, as you do here, all the way across to the same distance apart. So let's talk about that from another angle. So in this case, lines A and B are parallel, and that is these two lines. And line T is our transversal. So I want you to start thinking about this. Let me take these colors off real quick. So let's talk about this. Which pairs of angles, which pairs are vertical angles? Remember vertical angles from lesson 1. So in this case, I see, let's see, angle 3 and angle 1 are vertical angles. Angle 7 and angle 5 are vertical angles. Angle 8 and angle 6 are vertical angles. Angle 4 and angle 2 are vertical angles. So which angle pairs are adjacent linear angles? You notice I have 2 sets of vertical angles, 4 sets of different vertical angles. So now let's talk about which sets of angles are adjacent linear angles. Those are angles that are together that make a line. So I'm going to clear off this real quick. So we know where our vertical angles are. Let's talk about which angles are adjacent linear angles. So I can see the ones that are right next to it. Angles 2 and 3 are adjacent linear. Angles 6 and 7 are adjacent linear. Angles 1 and 4 are adjacent linear. Angles 5 and 8 are adjacent linear angles. So those are all the ones that are next to each other horizontally, but there's also sets that are next to each other vertically. Angles 1 and 2 are also adjacent linear angles. Angles 3 and 4 are adjacent linear angles. Angles 5 and 6 are adjacent linear angles. And angles 7 and 8 are adjacent linear angles. So if we remember, vertical angles and adjacent linear angles, we know things about them. So vertical angles are congruent. They're the same. Wow, that's an ugly N. And adjacent linear angles are supplementary. They add up to 180. They add up to 180. So we're going to use that, and we're going to talk about corresponding angles. So that's another angle relationship we have. So corresponding angles are angles that are in the same position on different parallel lines. So if we look here, if I look at angle A, if I picked up this entire set and put it on top of these, angle A would be on top of angle C. That means that they are corresponding angles. Angle E would be on top of angle G, so they are corresponding angles. Angle B would be on top of angle D, so they are corresponding angles. And angle F would be on top of angle H, so they are corresponding angles. So the thing to know about corresponding angles is they are congruent. They have the same measure. So corresponding angles are congruent. So we've talked about corresponding angles, we've talked about adjacent linear angles, and we've talked about vertical angles. So how can we use this? So, let's do this. Find the M of angle. This is the measure of angle 5 if angle 1 is 35. So let's do that. If angle 1 here is 35 degrees, then what is angle 5? Well, they are vertical angles from each other. Oops, let's try that so you can sort of see it a little better. So these are vertical angles. That means they are the same. So if angle 1 is 35, then so is angle 5. So then the angle 5 would be 35. Let's erase this because these are all these change. So then we asked you to find what is angle 4 if angle 1 is 50. So angle 1 is 50. How could I figure out what angle 4 is? Well, angle 1 and angle 8 are corresponding angles. So that means if angle 1 is 50, then angle 8 is 50. And angle 4 and angle 8 are vertical angles. So that means that angle 4 would be 50 as well. So in this case, angle 4 would be 50. Okay, so let's look at another set. Again, I'm going to erase all this because each time I'm changing which angle I know and what its measurement is. Okay, what is the measure of angle 7? So that's right here. If angle 2 is 137. So angle 2 down here is 137. So let's think about that. Angle 2 and angle 7 are corresponding angles. Well, we said corresponding angles have the same measure. So then angle 7 would also be 137. And last one, what is the measure of angle 7 if angle 6 is 150? I forgot to erase. Erase these. So now I'm trying to find angle 7 here if I know angle 6. We're saying angle 6 is 150 degrees. We're trying to find the measure of angle 7. So here's angle 6. If angle 6's corresponding angle is angle 3. Remember, corresponding angles are the same, so that means angle 3 is 150. And angle 3 and angle 7 are vertical angles. That means angle 7 is 150 degrees. Not too bad, right? We did a lot of figuring there. Let's try some more. So, in this diagram, lines N and P are parallel to each other. So these two lines are parallel to each other. Line Q is perpendicular. So that means line Q has all these right angles. So these are right angles. So we're going to justify two ways you know the measurement of angle 3. So here is angle 3 that we're trying to find. Let me make it pink. So we're trying to find angle 3. And we need to justify two ways that we know it. So let's talk about this. So we have this transversal here. Ooh, didn't mean to do that with that. Meant to do that with the highlighter. This transversal here comes down, and we're trying to find it. So I know that this 42 and this angle are vertical angles, so they're the same. So then I know that the measure of that is also 42. And then angle 3 and angle 1 are corresponding angles, so that one's also 42. So that's one way I know, is because angle 1 is 42 because it's vertical to angle 40 to angle that's given the measure 42, and then 1 and 3 are corresponding angles. Another way I might know is angle 2 here is an adjacent linear angle with this one. So if that's 42, then angle 2 must be 138. If angle 2 is 138, then that means that this angle here is 138, which means that all that's left to create this is the 42. Okay, so that's how two different ways we know the measure of angle 3. I'm going to erase all this and start again so we talk about the measure of angle 1. Okay, so we're trying to find two ways we know the measure of angle 1. Well, I know one way I know the measure of angle 1 is it's a vertical angle with the angle that says 42. So I know because of their vertical angles. And then I need another way. Another way I know is that 42 and 2 are adjacent linear, which means that angle 2 must be 138. And angles 1 and 2 are adjacent linear angles. So if that's 138, then that must be 42. Okay, so we're getting the same number no matter what we do. It's just a matter of checking it. Okay, last time. Let's talk about making sure that we can identify these things. So, first thing, identify the parallel lines. Well, here's my parallel lines. I can tell because they've got these wonderful arrows on them. My parallel lines. I'm asked to identify my transversal. The transversal is this. How many angles are formed? Well, I can count them. 1, undo that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 angles are formed. Which of the angles are congruent? Now, this is actually sort of cool. If I know anything about all of these, then I can tell you there's only 2 different angle measurements here. Because angle 1 is congruent to angle 6 because they are vertical. Angle 1 is also congruent with angle 3 because they are corresponding. And angle 3 and angle 8 are vertical. So those are all congruent. And then angle 5 is congruent with angle 2 because they're vertical. Angle 2 is congruent with angle 4 because they are corresponding. And angle 4 and angle 7 are congruent because they're vertical. So we have only 2 different angle measurements. So we have 2, get rid of that. So we have 2 angle measurements. And by the way, if I know any of them, I can do all of it because each of the green ones, when you add it with the blue one, become 180. 2 angle measurements. So angles either equal each other or they are supplementary. They equal 180 degrees. So that's all you need to know about these. Either the angles are the same or they add up to 180. Okay, so go ahead and work on your work in class, and I will see you all later.